The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today. All right, already welcome back to a brand new episode of the College Baseball Experience. Merry Christmas. My bad. It's Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. But it feels like Christmas because we get a bracket in 10 hours. Literally some of the best days in the sports world is when you just get a brand new bracket to dissect. And that, of course, comes with futures odds that you can bet on for regionals and super regionals in the College World Series, while you know everything that's in front and the paths ahead of each team. So today, I've mentioned on the show before that I am just somewhat of a bracket nerd. I love making brackets. I'm going to do one last projection of how I think it's going to go. It's a little bit of what I want and a little bit of what I think the committee is going to do. You guys will see at the end of that. But as we get to there, but before we touch on that, I want to just kind of run through the games real quick. Of course, I slept through kind of the first, I would say, quarter of the day. All the games started at noon, and I got the pod up at like 7 yesterday. So I slept till about 2, and I was able to catch some of the ends of the first games of the day. But Dallas Baptist goes down to Charlotte. They lose in the Conference USA tournament final. That one was a loss. That was actually my favorite bet of the day. Caught me off guard there. I mean, the Pats still only gave up 5 runs in that game. They pitched well, but the Bats just didn't get going there. San Jose State beats Air Force in the Mountain West Conference Championship game, 12-9. San Jose State over Air Force. Central Connecticut, they ran through the NEC this year. They beat Wagner in the tournament final, 12-3. Southern Miss, Scott Berry. I mean, first year in the Sun Belt, they win the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Congrats to the Golden Eagles there. They won 6-2 against Louisiana. Vanderbilt beat Texas A&M 10-4. Man, I mean, that one was a tough read in general, just because we didn't know who in the world Vanderbilt was going to trot out there and pitch. It was just really interesting all the way around, because I felt like Vandy, for the last 3 or 4 games, they've jumped out to really big early leads. But in this one, I mean, they put up, I think it was 5 in the 8th inning. And that was the game ender right there in the 8th inning, I think it was. In the SWAC, we didn't get Alabama State coming out of there this year, or I guess we didn't get Alabama State coming out of there like we all thought they were. Instead, 29-28, Florida A&M beats Bethune-Cookman 9-6. So the Rattlers are in the big dance. UNCW beats Northeastern in the Colonial Athletic. That was the first game of the day, I believe, in the CAA. The second game, no, that was the championship game. Northeastern beat Elon to get there. So yeah, UNCW has the auto bid from the Colonial. Iowa gets shut out by Maryland. Didn't expect that one coming. 8 shit there. Maryland beats Iowa 4-0 in Omaha. The Terps, they are getting the job done in the Big Ten Conference. Year in, year out. It's tough to fade them. Lipscomb beats Florida Gulf Coast 12-6. That was a tough one to watch because I was kind of pulling for the Eagles. I thought I thought that their offense would be able to do more damage in the postseason on the seed than what I think Lipscomb could possibly do. And Lipscomb being right there in Nashville, they'll end up going to Vanderbilt's regional. I don't really favor them too much there. FGCU could have probably put up a good fight against Miami, but I don't see it from Lipscomb against Vanderbilt here. TCU crushes Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament final. We had that one. Clemson, they beat Miami 11-5. Speaking of huge late innings, Clemson, they had one big inning late in the game, and early on, they jumped out to a lead. I think it was like 3-0 early. And then in the middle of the game, Miami, I was like, oh shit, here we go again, fading Miami, and they're just piecing together runs. And sure enough, I think it was like an 8 spot in the late innings for Clemson in one inning and just blew it open. So Clemson wins. And the big one of the day, the upset heard around the world. Tulane, the Green Wave, they win the game 8-6 over East Carolina, and the 19-40 Tulane Green Wave are going dancing. Great story there, because I mean that's a new coach over there, first year, and they struggled early on, struggled throughout the year. To be honest, they were 8-16 in conference this season, and hey, you got hot during the right time of the year. All you needed to do was just win a couple of games during the week, and they got the job done against Big Bad East Carolina in the American there. So they are going in the NCAA tournament. And before I jump into these projections that we have nice little graphics. So if you're not watching on YouTube, pull it up on YouTube because it'll be a nice visual presentation that we have here. And we have a couple of typos and just things that we're going to clean up before we put it on social media tomorrow. But yeah, just wanted to get it out here tonight. But before we do that, let me tell you about Edge Boost, because if you're not signed up with them, you're missing out. Edge Boost is the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Similar to buy now, pay later programs, Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest and pay back the advance over 4 equal weekly installments. That's right, 0% interest. Simply deposit funds into your account, and Edge Boost will match your deposit so you can use double the funds on any legal sports betting site. Edge currently offers up to $2,500 in advances, up to $2,500 that you can add into your bankroll. So go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up today. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge. You must be 21 years old or older to use Edge Boost, and it's only valid in legal gambling sites or states. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's jump into some of these projections, the fun stuff here on today's podcast. Wait, shit. I didn't prep this. Now I gotta sign in on my Google account. That was terrible planning on my part. Apologize, guys. I'm loading up the slideshow that I made pre-show, and I will get it in here immediately. Oops. So we'll be fine. It's loading into this stream, and here we go. So the big part of today, oh man, my camera screen's kind of blocking this up here. Nope, that's not going to work. Still kind of blocking it. What in the world? I thought I made the layout good enough, but it's kind of blocking that top right corner part of it. Here, there we go. Sorry, a little bit of a work in progress. Maybe I'm cut off now. What in the world is going on here? Am I fine? My screen fine? Yeah, okay, we're good. I think. I don't know what's going on. Technology, am I right? All right, so the big reason why we're doing this today is on Sunday night, they announced the regional hosts. So we have the 16 teams that are hosting this year. They were announced in alphabetical order, and I've kind of gone through all the resumes. I've put them on the spreadsheets, and I've determined or predicted that it's going to come out into this order that you see on your screen currently. It's color coded. Green as in the strengths, the yellow, it's pretty much neutral against the field, and red it's worse than 50% of the teams that are hosting here. Again, like in reference to all the teams on this graphic, none of these metrics are really that bad. You get a couple of non-conference strength of schedules that are bad compared to the rest of the country, but honestly, got to get the logo off my cam. Putting this thing together as we're going along, but Yeah, honest, like I did this comparing to the schools on this list, and the only things that I'm comparing to the rest of the country is the non-conference strength of schedule, the road record, the quad one, the quadrant performances here. So each of the columns that I've highlighted are the things that I, in general, look into more heavily than the others. And then I know that the committee takes into account like your performance over the last 15 games. I didn't include that. I didn't go into the schedules to pull up all of those records, but these were just easy, nice copy paste. And then I was able to order it here. Um, for me, it has to start off with Wake Forest. I think a lot of people have Wake Forest, and I have Florida at number 2. They have the 4th RPI, 22 wins inside the SEC. That's the regular season and the conference tournament. So they were 22-11 this season. The only non-strength on this resume here is a 149th non-conference strength of schedule. But that gets balanced out, when you're playing in the SEC. It's 17th normal strength of schedule, but again, I don't weigh that as much as I do non-conference, because that's really showing uh, what kind of effort that the team's putting into in scheduling outside of their conference, and how much competition, or the caliber of competition that they're actually trying to play here. I know some of it's regional and they don't have any control over that, but when you're playing in the SEC, like, that the strength of schedule is going to be much stronger than a team that's not in a power conference. So, yeah, I mean, they're 149th in non-conference strength of schedule. Coming into the season, the first month looked like a cakewalk. Came out a little bit better than that, but still not very good at all. But they have what I'm considering like I have 7 columns here that are colored in as the most important here. Both Wake Forest and Florida are top notch in 6 of the 7, and then they have one bad blemish, and both of them are non-conference strength of schedules, as Wake Forest is 139th. Again, you can pull it up on YouTube, pull up the video or stream on YouTube, and you can see what I'm reading off of here. I am hearing a lot of people putting Arkansas at 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson gets put in the 3 spot in national seeds, because they have 2 more wins on the season than Arkansas. They're 43-17 compared to Arkansas's 41-16. Clemson's 6th in the RPI. Arkansas's 3rd. Clemson has 24 ACC wins. Arkansas has 22 SEC wins. Clemson's non-conference strength of schedule is 19th in the country. Arkansas is 37th, and they're also 7-9 on the road, whereas Clemson's 14-5 on the road, 23-9 against quad one. They have 23 quad one wins compared to Arkansas's 19 quad one wins. The only thing is that Clemson has 3 losses to bottom 200 competition. Arkansas only has 2, but that's the only blemish, or it's not really even like a weakness on this resume for Clemson. I like it a little bit more than Arkansas's. So I think that it's a serious threat that Clemson could be the 3 seed over Arkansas here. Arkansas is my 4 seed. At 5, I gave Vanderbilt the edge over LSU with the SEC conference tournament title. This one's a close race though, but with Vanderbilt picking up 4 extra wins in the conference tournament, they finished with 23 SEC wins, LSU with just 20. And up and down the board, I thought it was pretty similar resumes. Vanderbilt, they have 21 quad one wins. LSU just 17. But I say just 17. That's still many more than the rest of the country there. So I thought both of those resumes were very, very similar. Vanderbilt 7th in the RPI, LSU 5th. I gave the nod to Vanderbilt at 5, LSU at 6. I have Virginia at 7, mainly because I wasn't going to put in another SEC team into the top 8. We've already got 4 SEC teams up here. And usually you don't get 5 in the top 8 from one conference. So I put Virginia here. They have the 10th RPI. They have 45 wins on the season. They are 11-7 on the road. The only really bad spot on this resume is, again, the non-conference strength of schedule at 207th. But when we're talking quality wins, they're 13-7 against quad one. They don't have one single bad loss against the bottom 200 team. They're 19-0 against them this season. And then at 8, it was either going to be Oklahoma State or Stanford for me here. I think you need like somewhat of you either need two centralized locations in America. So I made it that I have Oklahoma State at 8 and Arkansas here. So that's two teams in the middle of America. Or you can put Stanford, which gives you a West Coast regional in that top 8. But the Cowboys, they edge it out a little bit here over Stanford for me. With a 41-18 record, Stanford just 38-16 out of the Pac-12, 24 wins in that conference, but it wasn't as strong this year, and nor was the Big 12 at 19-11 for Oklahoma State. From there, both RPIs were very similar. The Cowboys had a 17th RPI, Cardinal 15th, but Stanford's 99th in non-conference strength of schedule, Oklahoma State 56th. Very similar resumes here. I gave the nod to Oklahoma State over Stanford. Stanford was my 9 seed overall. Miami, Florida, I put at 10. Really, I don't love this resume, but I thought a lot of people were saying that they could climb into the top 8 spot into a national seed, and I just didn't really see it. They're 12th in RPI, 40-19 on the season, 21-3 in the ACC. With a 154th non-conference strength of schedule. On the road, they have a losing record. They're one of 2 teams in the top 16 with a losing record. Actually, one of 5, sorry. But one of 2 teams that have 2 or more games below 500 on the road. I should say that. One of 3 teams. Man, I cannot read this. And I made it color coded and dummy proof too for myself. But yeah, they're one of 3 teams, which is not very good company when we're talking about the top 16 teams in the country. And then they're 16-13 against quad 1, which in the grand scheme of things isn't as good as other teams on this list. And then they're 15-2 against quad 3 and quad 4. So then we have Kentucky at 11. With the second best RPI in the country. They're 36-18 this season, only 16-15 against the SEC, which is not great. 10th non-conference strength of schedule, 11-11 on the road. Just this resume is honestly pretty average all around, and then with a number 2 RPI slap next to it. So it'll be really interesting to see where the committee chooses to put the Wildcats. I have Coastal Carolina as my 12 seed. Yeah, Coastal Carolina is my 12 seed, 14th RPI. They have the number 1 non-conference strength of schedule, and they're 14-7 on the road. I really like that. Alabama, I have at 13th overall. South Carolina, 14th. Auburn, 15th. Indiana State at 16th. And let's just talk about these 2 here, Auburn and Indiana State, because their athletic directors are on the selection committee. So little handshake deal. I mean, they walk out of their room, they say, and there's not supposed to be any biases whatsoever towards that. But we all know that it usually works out this way, even though they're not talking in the committee when their team's being brought up. They're supposed to walk out. It is what it is, and we kind of expected that this would happen. I tweeted out my predictions for these top 16 seeds, and I had 15 out of the 16 correct. The only one that I didn't have in here was Auburn, and I had Campbell over Auburn. Campbell, I thought, was the biggest snub of the year for the regional hosts. They had this is not currently updated on my notebook next to me, but I'm going to pull it up right now because Campbell had the 13th best RPI, a 44-13 record on the year. The 8th best non-conference or 13th best non-conference strength of schedule, a 20-9 road record, 9-5 against quad 1 with only 3 bad losses all year. This is a hosting resume for a team that gets dragged down by the rest of its conference. It'll be going to the Colonial next season, so hopefully that's an improvement for the Camels, but they easily should have hosted. And I wonder if them not hosting, like, so their bid that they put in, it wasn't going to be on campus. It was going to be at a minor league stadium an hour away. I wonder if that was going to end up, if that costed them here a host instead of, South Carolina. A lot of people brought up. I didn't really have a problem with South Carolina getting a host here. Their resume over the full length of the season was great. Auburn finished much better. They finished the season much better, but South Carolina over the duration of the season had a better resume in my eyes. So I left out Auburn, and I had Campbell actually at 11. So going into the day, I had them 11. So I thought that was quite a big snub. Before we move on and we actually get into the bracket, let me tell you about the SGPN app. It's home to all of our free picks and podcasts in one convenient app. Plus, we have exclusive free roll contest links. Download the SGPN app for free in the App Store or Google Play Store. And hey, I mean, this thing is really convenient. Like I just said, with everything on there, you can find all the articles, all the podcasts, all the picks, all for free. Sports Gambling Podcast Network does everything for you for free. A bunch of grinders out here, and we don't really ask for anything in return, just downloads, reviews. We thank you a lot for that. Now let's jump into the bracket, the fun stuff. So the Wake Forest Demon Deacons are the number 1 overall seed, and the Winston-Salem Regional. It's located in Massachusetts, according to this graphic, but we know it's in Carolina. But I have the 2 seed, Texas A&M, going there. Charlotte as the 3 seed, and Maine as the 4 seed. And a nice touch that we put on these graphics are the gambling odds for them to win the College World Series. So those are currently listed next to these teams on these graphics that I'll be showing throughout the rest of this show. Then the 16th overall seed for me, I had Indiana State. So in the Terre Haute Regional in Indiana, it's Indiana State as the 1 seed, Indiana as the 2 seed, Northeastern as the 3 seed, but it's listed as Northwestern. I told you we had just 2. It was just 2 typos, and they're both here in the first 2 regionals on this graphic. But Northeastern is the 3 seed, Ball State is the 4 seed. Then the 8th national seed is Oklahoma State for me. They're going to host Tennessee as the 2 seed, Iowa as the 3 seed, and Oral Roberts as the 4 seed in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And then the 9th overall seed is Stanford for me. And this regional is going to host TCU, UC Irvine, and Santa Clara. Then the number 4 overall seed, Arkansas. We're moving down the left side of the bracket here. I have them hosting Dallas Baptist as the 2 seed, Texas Tech as the 3 seed, and San Jose State as the 4 seed in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Not a bad look for Arkansas here to come out of here. I don't think at 8-1, still currently out there in the wild. I think it was up to 10-1 earlier today. Speaking of, I mean, I just covered that TCU regional. I gave them out this morning at 100-1 prior to them winning the Big 12 tournament. Everywhere it's been chopped basically in half. It's down to like 65-1 at some places and 50-1 in other places. So shout out to you guys, because normally money moves these prices. So I know that quite a few of you got out there and jumped on this price with me. So we moved the market there for sure. And I expect TCU to maybe be like 30-1 when these brackets come out and they find out that they're going to be a 2 seed. So let's go Frogs. Then the 13th overall seed I have is Alabama. They're going to host Boston College because there's just not a Northeast regional. So they are getting sent here down to Tuscaloosa. Troy, and then Troy's the 3 seed here, the Trojans. And then the 4 seed is Nichols. And then the 5th overall seed is Vanderbilt. I have North Carolina going there, along with Kent State, a bubble team that I like to get into the NCAA tournament this season, and Lipscomb in Nashville, in the Nashville regional. The 12th overall seed is Coastal Carolina for me. In the Conway regional, there's going to be Duke as the 2 seed, UNC Wilmington as the 3 seed, and Central Connecticut as the 4 seed. Going over to the right side of the bracket here, Florida is the number 2 overall seed for me. They'll host Oregon, Cal State Fullerton, and Florida A&M in Gainesville. Then in Auburn, Alabama, we have Auburn hosting Southern Miss, Oregon State, and Rider. Oregon State, their RPI tanked after this weekend. It's all the way down to 37. So I have them falling all the way to the 3 line. So Beavers, they'll be able to try to get their revenge on Auburn after last season when the Tigers and Sonny DeShera came into Goss and knocked Oregon State out of the NCAA tournament. In Charlottesville for the number 7 overall Virginia Cavaliers, I have them hosting Maryland, the 2 seed, Oklahoma, the 3 seed, and George Mason as the 4 seed in their regional. And then the 10th overall seed is Miami, Florida for me. They're the 1 seed here. UConn, the 2 seed. Washington's the 3 seed. And Eastern Illinois is the 4 seed in Coral Gables. And then the final quadrant for us today, the number 3 overall seed, Clemson. Still out there at 25-1. Earlier today, they were, I think, 40-1 at one place before they won the ACC tournament. I have it as the Bakich Bowl in Clemson, South Carolina. I have East Carolina going to Clemson. Bakich played at East Carolina with East Carolina's current head coach, Cliff Godwin. They played on the same team there for the Pirates. And then Sanford's going to be the 3 seed and Penn as the 4 seed. Fire me up for that regional. It's going to be me versus Colby if that happens. And then in Columbia, South Carolina, this one is the best regional for me. In my opinion, this was my favorite regional that I made. It was South Carolina as the 14th overall seed, Campbell as the 2 seed, NC State as the 3 seed, and Army as the 4 seed. And then in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, my 6th overall seed, LSU, is hosting Texas as a 2 seed, Sam Houston as a 3 seed, and Tulane as the 4 seed. And we've rounded out in Lexington, Kentucky for their regional. It's Kentucky, the 11th overall seed, hosting West Virginia, the 2 seed, Xavier, 3 seed, and the 4 seeded Wright State Raiders out of the Horizon League. Let's jump into the bubble here. Let's dissect it a little bit more because I just went through all the teams. You might have caught a couple of teams from the bubble that I allowed in. Oklahoma is a popular topic here on a team that has been on the bubble for the last maybe 2 weeks of the season. They have the 40th RPI, and for me, it's their non-conference strength of schedule that I circled on here. They have the 22nd best non-conference strength of schedule, and they're 13-10 on the road with 12 quad 1 wins. So I have them in as my 4th to last team in. And then one team that I'm not hearing many people talk about is Kent State. With the 46th RPI, they have 40 wins this season. They're 27. They have a 27-8 conference record in the MAC, 76th non-conference strength of schedule. They're 17-13 on the road. They just didn't get enough quality chances. They were 0-1 in quad 1 games, and they had 2 quad 2 wins compared to 5 quad 2 losses. A big part of this is going to be Eastern Michigan's athletic director is on the selection committee for the NCAA, and who we might see Kent State sneak in as a bubble team here, in my opinion. And I don't mind their resume at all. With the 46 RPI, they have 40 wins on the season. I really like the Golden Flashes here. Then UC Irvine, 49th in the RPI, a 38-17 record, 19 wins in the Big West, and 83rd non-conference strength of schedule, and they were 19-6 on the road. That's the best road record out of all these bubble teams. I like the Anteaters to get in here. And then finally, as my last team in, Kirby Hokut's on the board, and I think he's like the chair. I think he's the number 1 guy on this thing. I think they sneak in as the last team, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, with the 41st RPI, a 39-21 record on the year, 12-12 in the Big 12, counting the conference tournament. I think that they sneak in over teams like Louisiana, Arizona, UCSB, and Kansas State. So let's have a little bit of fun. We're only 29 minutes in. Let's go back to some of these brackets, and I'll kind of run through what I think about when we're looking through these. For me, Wake Forest probably comes out of this regional over Texas A&M, Charlotte, and Maine. The Indiana State regional should be really interesting. Again, that's Northeastern in there. It's Indiana State, Indiana, Northeastern, and Ball State. I think that's up for grabs for anyone. I would probably end up giving it to Indiana State just because I think they've flown completely under the radar this season. I think they're somewhat legit. They just didn't win games early on in the season against quality competition because they are 2-9 against quad one teams this season. But I'd go with the Sycamores there, and then the Tennessee at Oklahoma State Stillwater regional. That one might be really, really fun. Also, you have Oral Roberts, who's the feisty 4 seed who can really pitch, and they could spoil Oklahoma State in game one. Who knows? These are all hypotheticals. Um, Give me Tennessee to get out of there. And then in the Stanford regional, I like TCU a lot right now. They're rolling. I like TCU to come out of there. Just all hypotheticals. Give me Wake Forest over Indiana State and TCU against Tennessee. I don't know how that would work. I don't know the math on that yet, on who would host that super regional between TCU and Tennessee. But yeah, then it would. So for me, going to Omaha on this quadrant of the bracket, it would be Wake Forest and TCU. And then in the bottom left corner, the number 4 overall seed quadrant with Arkansas. I have Arkansas hosting Dallas Baptist, Texas Tech, and San Jose State. I would take Arkansas to come out of this regional. Alabama, Boston College, Troy, and Nicholls State. I like Alabama's pitching staff a lot. So give me the Crimson Tide to come out of here. Vanderbilt, North Carolina, Kent State, Lipscomb. North Carolina could be pretty feisty here, but I don't know if they have the pitching depth to really. I mean, Vanderbilt has been jumping on teams early and often right now over the last week and a half. So if that continues and they can do that against North Carolina, I think that's trouble because I just don't know if North Carolina has the quality of pitching that Vanderbilt has. But then again, the Commodore staff is a little bit banged up right now. Who knows? So give me Vanderbilt out of there, just in the hypothetical. Coastal Carolina, Duke, UNCW, and Central Connecticut. This one, I don't think anybody has the offensive firepower to match Coastal Carolina in their own regional. So then it goes with Arkansas, Alabama. Give me Arkansas to beat Alabama and go to the College World Series. And then give me, it would be at Vanderbilt and Coastal Carolina. I'd probably go Vandy there. And then on the right side of the bracket here, the number 2 overall seed Florida is hosting Oregon, Cal State Fullerton, and Florida A&M. I would take the Gators out of there in this regional, but they are perennial underachievers in the NCAA tournament, to say the least. 15 seed Auburn, they're hosting Southern Miss, Oregon State, and Rider. I would take Southern Miss to get out of here. I think that they just have something going right now. They've been rolling, and it's that Scott Berry magic. It really is. So Southern Miss would be the hypothetical pick out of that regional for me. Virginia, Maryland, Oklahoma, and George Mason in Charlottesville. I would take Virginia to come out of here. Miami, Florida, UConn. I have a bar there. Washington and Eastern Illinois in this regional. You probably have to go with Miami there, but they just don't perform in the NCAA tournament. Both those Florida teams, Florida and Miami, they could possibly, if this is the bracket, which ultimately it probably won't be, but it could line up like this. Florida and Miami could end up playing each other in the first round in Omaha. That would be fun. And then the last quadrant here, or I would go with Florida over Southern Miss, and then Virginia over Miami. And then the last quadrant, Clemson, East Carolina, Samford, and Penn in this regional. I would take Clemson. I'm nervous about the starting rotation for the Tigers, but I think they have enough to get the job done here hosting their regional in the opening round. Then give me Campbell to come out of the Columbia, South Carolina regional. I think that Campbell would come in pissed off. I think this one's like a stone cold lock. I think Campbell ends up going to South Carolina for the regional. They are like one of the best 2 seeds in my mind, and South Carolina is going to be one of the bottom top 16 seeds. They're either going to be 14, 15, or 16 in my eyes. And Campbell would ultimately be sent there, in my opinion. And then they would probably catch NC State, which is one of the better 3 seeds. So they would go to Columbia because it's also regional. That 1, 2, 3, that regional, I think is pretty set in stone that I think will happen. So I like Campbell to come out of there personally. And then LSU, Texas, Sam Houston, and Tulane in the Baton Rouge regional. Give me Texas. Sam Houston's the 3 seed that I'm going to pick on this podcast. They're just hypothetical picks here. And then in Lexington, Kentucky, Kentucky, West Virginia, Xavier, and Wright State. Give me West Virginia to come out of there. And then, so it's Clemson and Campbell. I'll take Clemson over Campbell. I think they swept the midweek series this season against Campbell too. And then Sam Houston against West Virginia. I have West Virginia going to Omaha in this hypothetical bracket. And then it would be Clemson and West Virginia. That would be fun. So thank you all for joining me. Happy Memorial Day. Like I mentioned, it's also Christmas Day for all the college baseball fans out there. We will be back Monday night. It's going to be me and Colby. We might be joined by Ryan McIntyre from the College Basketball Experience as well to go over our brief reactions from the podcast. We'll do the same thing that I just did here, running through the regions, giving out half-fast picks, like handicapped or factual, no confirmed bets yet. We'll probably place one bet during this stream just to have fun with it. But yeah, it would just be all reactions. We'll list some stats. We'll list some players to keep an eye on in each regional. And then throughout the week, we'll be putting out more content. Whether for me, I'll be doing some TikTok videos. You can follow me there at 77NB. That's the same tag for my Twitter account as well. You can follow the show at TCE on sg.pn on TikTok and Twitter as well. So check out the Golf Gambling Podcast, like I plugged yesterday. Check out the MLB Gambling Podcast. They're doing great stuff over there. The College Football Experience, College Basketball Experience are going all year long. The Sports Gambling Podcast, the mothership around everything in SGPN world. I'll have an article out this week as well, giving out my favorite picks to win the College World Series. So that's going to be fun. That's what I'll be working on tomorrow. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you all for joining me on this podcast. I hope you enjoyed the bracketology projection that I put together here over the last 3 hours after the top 16 seeds came out. With that, I bid you adieu. Adios, amigos.